So I remember attending a church service one time where the minister was like a jackhammer, pounding over and over the idea that if you do not believe in Jesus in a very specific way, that you are going to hell. His sermon depicted a cosmic battle between good and evil, between God and the devil, who were each vying for my soul and for yours. And each was trying to get us to belong to their army. He described a vision of a time in the future when we'd all be divided between believers and non-believers, between the sheep and the goats. And I have to say, I left that service feeling like a goat. And I remember thinking to myself that when I have children, I will never expose them and their impressionable little psyches to such a fearful and divisive vision of God and religion. And I imagine that you've also had experiences in which you became extremely clear about what you do not want for yourself or for your children. And let's be honest, it's usually much easier to figure out what we do not want than it is to decide what we do want. But today is about what we do want. We have before us a vision of what this church strives to be. And it's not focused on avoiding a scary hell in the next life. If there's any focus on hell at all, it's a focus on the very real hells that exist in this life. The hells that are born of poverty and prejudice, of addiction and violence. And our centennial vision also reminds us that if we destroy our planet with waste and pollution, that the quality of life here on earth could become a living hell. And so environmental sustainability is also a part of our centennial vision. And so these are the things that we teach our children. Hopefully they learn to have a positive vision and how having a positive vision of what you want to do with your life can actually change the course of history. The signers of the Declaration of Independence had a vision that altered human history towards greater freedom and equality. Those who gave us the Constitution gave us a vision of continually working to create a more perfect union. And those 27 men and women sitting in the YWCA in downtown Tulsa in 1921, who signed their names on a piece of paper, a copy of which is standing on our chancel this morning. Those 27 who signed their names on a piece of paper and established this church, a church of all souls in Tulsa. They gave us a vision of a beloved community. Today, you and I are invited to sign our names on the centennial vision for all souls. Now, it's not the Declaration of Independence, yet it does offer a vision of defeating oppression and tyranny and expanding human freedoms, and it includes a faith in democracy. It's not the Constitution, but it does help us to create a more perfect union. And it's not the document that charted our church nearly 90 years ago, but it is the next step in building the beloved community that they envisioned. And who knows, your grandchildren or great-grandchildren might one day be standing in these hallowed halls, pointing their little finger at your signature on this vision for our 100th birthday as a church. Now, you may be wondering how we're all going to be able to get up here and sign this vision and still be out of church in time to beat the Baptists to brunch. I know how you think. But we've worked it out, and we're going to need your help. But when we're done, we're going to frame and hang this vision with all of our signatures in a special place in this church to guide us on our way over the next decade to the 100th birthday of All Souls. For the next few weeks, as long as there's room to sign, we're going to have the vision statement out in Emerson Hall for those who couldn't be here today so that they can sign this historic vision. The way it'll work is that we'll each be signing a piece of paper that will be attached later to the vision document. But each piece of paper also has the vision written and printed on the back. And those of you who have mobility concerns and are wondering how you're going to get up onto the chancel, we'd ask you when your row is dismissed to just raise your hand and show the usher, and we'll bring someone back there who will allow you to sign it right there in your pew, in your row, so that you don't have to try to navigate these stairs if you would rather not. Now, the signers of the Declaration of Independence pledged 3 things. Do you remember what they are? Their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. The signers of our church charter in 1921 pledged their time, their talent, and their treasure. And this is the legacy that they've left to hand on to us, and for us to hand on to the next generation. And so today, along with your signature, we're also going to ask you to declare your commitment to support this vision in the coming year, in the first year of this new decade. If you're on our mailing list, you received one of these declaration cards in the mail. If you didn't receive one, or if you left yours at home, we have some. They were handed out as you came in. If you don't have one, raise your hand and someone will bring you one. I see a hand in the back. On them, we're asking you to declare up to 3 things. First, to declare your intention to further your personal and spiritual growth in the year ahead. This is your personal commitment to nurture yourself intellectually, spiritually, and personally. Now keep in mind that this is a commitment that actually, as coming to church every Sunday or coming to church regularly, is a form of spiritual practice to develop your own sense of intellectual, spiritual, and personal growth. But to do what we propose to do here in the next 10 years, it's going to take each one of us making sure we remain lifelong learners, expanding our minds, our hearts, and our spirits. So that's the spirit of the first piece. But know that we're not going to do anything with that line. That is for you. That's your personal commitment that you're doing on behalf of all of us and the hopes and the dreams that we have for the future generation. I think some people will write on that line, just say yes. Other people will write down what their spiritual practice may be over the next year. Second, we're asking you to declare some form of volunteer support in the coming year, either inside the church or outside of the church. You may be doing some great work outside of the church. It's a reminder that we're not a religion of people that believe that we can simply pray and meditate our way out of the world's problems. It takes everyone to build a beloved community like ours and to tear down the real hells that exist in this world. So we will pass on your names and interest to those departments in the church that might help you to get connected. And third, we're asking you to consider increasing your financial support of the congregation in 2011. This is, of course, for those of you who are blessed to be able to do so this coming year. But remember that last year we decided as a church to stop asking people for a new pledge commitment every year, but instead that we'll carry over the pledges from year to year until you let us know that you want to change your pledge, either up or down as you need to. But as long as we don't hear from you, we'll continue your pledge as it is. So you do not have to put anything on the third line if you're already pledging to the congregation, supporting it, and want to continue that support in the coming year. And I hope that if you can, you will, so that we can return our children's and youth programs to full funding. It's been a difficult couple of years, and we've been cutting and trimming back, and now's the time to expand and grow that program as we look to a vision to the future, those programs. There is a gap that's been created, but we can close that gap, and I hope we will with your help if you can this year. Now, in a minute, the ushers are going to start with the back rows and invite people to come onto the chancel to sign your name on this historic document. And we ask you to bring your filled-out card up and place it in one of these 2 baskets that are on either side of the chancel. We'll open those up for you and ask you to place that in there. And then you'll return to your seats down these side aisles coming through these doors here. And at the end, we'll have a closing. Now, it's also okay if you're not ready to sign the vision document today. Maybe you haven't had a chance to read it over the last month and you're not ready to do that. That's fine. You're invited to remain in your seats and sing with us because the rest of the congregation will be singing as others are coming up to sign. Or if you'd like to come up and just see the vision document, you're welcome to come forward and look at it as well when your row comes forward. We also thought that this would be a great opportunity for those who have never signed our membership book to be able to do so while you're on the chancel. We started this membership book in 2000 when I was installed as the senior minister in this church. So before that, we did not have a membership book, and if you joined the church before 2000, you've never signed a membership book, and some of you have mentioned that you'd like to, so it will be up there. Tamara will be standing there with one of our board members, and you'd be welcome to sign our membership book today. In the years since we started that in 2000, there are over 800 new names in that book, and we'd love to add your name to that if you haven't signed. Now, children, I want to invite all of the children. Bring your children up, and we hope that you'll sign our vision statement as well. If you can understand it, if you know what you're signing, we invite you to sign it and be a part of it if you support it. There is one thing in our church, the tradition is that you don't sign our membership book until you've completed our 9th grade coming of age program. So we would ask if you haven't completed that 9th grade coming of age program that those children don't sign that. But everyone of every age is welcome to sign our vision statement this morning. Now I want to conclude by coming back around to how I started this morning, because I think one of the reasons that people who believe in hell tend to be so pushy and often offensive about their beliefs is that they live with a high degree of anxiety and fear about whether they belong. Some of their agitation comes from worrying about their own sense of self-worth and whether they are going to be accepted by God. And so they end up projecting their anxiety about belonging onto the rest of us sometimes. And in order to feel in, some people have to place others who are different out. And it reminds me of a poem. He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that cast him in. When I imagine coming up to this circle this morning and signing our vision statement, I rejoice that our vision is an expansion of the circle of love and acceptance. It reminds me of that cool morning when I penned my name onto a piece of paper and became Lila's dad. She had just been born the day before. She didn't even weigh 5 pounds, and she was perfect. Just perfect. She came out with long, stunning eyelashes, big, beautiful eyes, and a soft little afro. The first time I set eyes on her, I began to cry. I felt so blessed that I was going to be allowed to be her father. And when I signed my name on those adoption papers, I was saying, you are now my family. You belong. And I'll do everything that I can to raise you to be the blessing that you are meant to be. And I know that you will help me to become the blessing that I am meant to be. And in my heart, I could feel the weight of all of her past relations who had a stake in what I was doing. And I felt the weight of my ancestors, whose name she would take and whose legacy she would be helping to shape. And I also knew that you and this church would be here to help us raise her well. And that no matter who she becomes, or what she believes, or who she chooses to marry, that she belongs. That this church will honor her and love her and help her through this life. And will help us to be her parents, come what may.